Hello guys, UnoPro here today for another advanced replay analysis. This time I'm joined by GrincherZ. We're going to be playing a Vetruvian deck while looking at some replays. Did you want to introduce yourself, Grinch?
Yeah, my name's GrincherZ. You guys might know me from Twitch. I stream pretty regularly for the game, and I also cast Bloodborne tournaments, and I've also cast King of the Beta tournaments. So good to be here finally, because I'm a huge fan of your YouTube series.
Alright, big fan of the stream, of course. Alright, so let's get into the deck tech. So this does look just like a simple Dervish deck, but you were saying it's a little bit different. Did you want to just give us a general overview of the deck?
Yeah. So the general feel of this deck appears on the surface to just be like, all right, the new Third Wish is out. Let's just give it targets, right? Whereas actually, it plays a lot similar to the aggro vet lists that were very prominent on the ladder and very dominant back in November and late December, simply because of smart decision making that you can make with this deck. Overall, the deck plays very, very fast if you draw perfectly, and you can set up basically turn 3 to turn 4 lethals if you are playing properly and drawing just right. But it also has late game survivability, and it's not just a one-trick pony. So I'm a huge fan of it, and it revitalizes the old feelings that a lot of Vitruvian players might miss from back in the day.
Alright, awesome. So let's get into a deck tech and talk about some of the individual inclusions. So first of all, we've got the standard Siphon Energy. Most people will run 3 First Wish, not much there. The Dunecaster, this was a card that was changed when the Third Wish happened. It's now a Dervish, which is obviously pretty big for this deck.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in any Dervish deck, that's pretty much just an auto include. So we're actually running 2 sets of obelisks, so the Ethereal and the Fire Blaze. How have you been finding these? Because for quite a long time they've hardly been played, but I feel like now the meta is actually getting a lot better for these cards.
Yeah, actually, with the like the subsiding of actual dispel in many decks lately, we've seen the rise of cards like Grandmaster Zero, and other very cards that are hard to play when a lot of dispel is in the meta. And I feel like running a lot of dispel targets, like such as several obelisks or Crimson Oculus, or buffing cards with Dunecaster, to create dispel targets, definitely has an inherent advantage against decks that aren't running a lot of dispel. So that it has some drawbacks, but it also has a lot of advantages.
Yeah, you can definitely see there's just an absolute huge amount of targets, and if they spend a dispel on your obelisk, you can maybe kill it if it's a shroud. You haven't really lost anything mana wise or tempo wise, and then you can drop a Maya healer late game and just destroy them. So it's definitely going for that overload kind of thing. Now, a card I do want to talk about is Sand Trap. Now, it's not a card I've seen played much at all in competitive decks. Would you like to give some insight on this one?
Yeah, this deck or this card is mind blowing. People don't know what to do when they get this card dropped on them. Literally, there are many targets for this deck in the meta. Namely, Big Abyssian, for example, runs a card that is very frightening right now in the ladder. The Vorpal Reaver, for example. This card can come out on turn 2 when they ramp it out, and you're just like, oh goodness, how do I deal with it? Well, Sand Trap handles it quite nicely, for example. It's also good at slowing down your opponent's turn 1 or turn 2 plays, for example. Just a game ago, I think I used it on an Azurite Lion, and he just never got value out of it. So the card can be used for varying purposes, and mostly it's a deterrent for large threats, and it serves the functionality of like a Hailstone Prison, so to speak, or a Martyrdom by simply removing the card from the game. And it also creates permanent targets for Star's Fury if your opponent chooses to neglect this minion. So if you set up zone control with your obelisks and plan around this minion and basically just position yourself properly, you can utilize the positional advantage that is granted by locking one's minion in place. And it's just an awesome card, and I'm loving it today.
Yeah, it's definitely something to know with the obelisks is that if you don't have the answer to the obelisk, you want to avoid giving it any value. Like I know I'm probably okay for hitting my general. But if it's hitting a minion at all, I'm already feeling pretty bad. So it's very tempting to put your minion far away from the action to play around this obelisk, and then you get hit with a sand trap, and you've killed your own minion essentially. So it's definitely some synergy there. So we've got the three sand howlers. How do you feel about this card at the moment? I know it wasn't seeing too much play. It's saw a little bit with the old Third Wish, but now that we've obviously got the Dervish base one, it does seem a lot better.
Yeah, this card, it's probably my favorite in the deck right now. Now, Old Third Wish, for some reason, this never really clicked, right? Like mentally, this whole Dervish setup never really clicked with the Old Third Wish.
Hmm.
However, that was simply because it wasn't a 2-drop, and the card took a little bit to set up. Now with the new Third Wish, and it has to be on a Dervish. You simply just adjust your play style, and this card can just become an explosive force that your opponent probably won't have an answer for without running something like Ephemeral Shroud. Like a lot of classes don't have a good answer for this card, and I feel that that's an advantage that we can utilize.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot less Saber Spine Tiger in the meta from what I've found as well, which is obviously
Hmm.
one of the better answers that's available to all classes. And I even really like this card just for the potential of the threat. Even if you don't have the Third Wish in hand, you can still sometimes play it safe, and your opponent is gonna feel like they have to maybe even overextend, or they have to go all out to kill it. So it's not a card your opponent ever wants to leave when you could easily Third Wish it next turn. Alright, so onto the Dancing Blades. Now, I saw an earlier variation in this list. You weren't running the Dancing Blades, I believe.
Uh,
What was the thought process behind changing that?
oh, that's correct. The earlier variation of this deck actually ran 2 Pyromancers before I changed them to Dancing Blades, and that is because I feel that with a lot of Blood Tier still lingering in the meta, Pyromancer can be punished very easily. Even if an unanswered Pyromancer is explosive, I feel the risk is not quite, or the reward is not quite as great as the risk as losing tempo. So I actually swapped it for more late game options because Dancing Blades is a card that Vetruvian has an unfair advantage, I'd say, to utilizing. A lot of people have to play around Blast, which means that they'll stagger their minions, which also draws out Star's Fury plays, and it also makes Dancing Blades plays very viable. So this card has a lot of utilization against opponents that are unwary of it, especially right on curve if they're not playing around it. It can be very powerful. Another thing that this card, and my personal favorite usage, is that if you position it behind your Amara healer, which, as the card says, deals 3 damage to any minion in front of this, or deals 3 damage to any minion in front of this minion, you can deal damage to your own Amara healer and thus kill it off on a weaker minion than your opponent might have let you have access to.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep in note. What I do like about this deck, especially with the Dancing Blade, the Star Fury combo, is in the past with old Third Wish Vitruvian, the deck was very heavily favored towards Blast. So, occasionally you would play Star's Fury, and of course you're playing Dancing Blades, but the decision was normally very clear how to position your minions. With 2 Dancing Blades, 2 Star's Fury, and a lower reliance on Third Wish, it's a really tricky situation for how do I position my minions against Vitruvian, because it's not clear play around Blast, play around Star's Fury. So I think that's a really kind of nice balance that's going to put your opponents in lots of tricky decisions. And then our final card for the deck, the 3 Amaya Healers. Not a card we've seen 3 of run too often, but as we talked about, Dispel's a lot less common. How have you been feeling about this card?
Now, this is a card that actually does not do as people would normally think it does. People would put this card in a control deck, thinking, okay, now I'm going to lock down my opponent and then capitalize upon the damage that it's going to deal, or I'm going to net some healing back, and I'm going to get back in this game. Right now, that's a misconception because you are actually utilizing this card strictly for the damage output. In an aggro vet list, of today's date, we are not running the same old Star's Fury Third Wish style where we had 15 damage for 7 mana. Now we have much more limited damage, but it's still very good, probably 7 to 8 damage. And the damage that Amara Healer can put out in any given situation is always going to be useful in that manner. So as soon as your opponent answers like a Sand Howler They spend all their resources killing off a third wish target. You slam them with an Amara healer, and they may or may not have an answer for it. And running 3 of these can be excellent against factions that usually have a good time or usually have a good answer for Sandholler, like Lionar, who can Sunbloom Martyrdom, and then boom, there goes their resources, and you slam an Amara healer on their face. So I'm a really big fan of this card in this current meta when combined with the aggressive style that this deck is running.
Yeah, it's definitely a card. I feel like if it doesn't get dispelled or a clean answer like a hailstone, or any other kind of silence effect, it's always going to be pretty good. It's just such a huge life swing. 5/5 Evoke Body's not too bad either. And even in a deck like this, there's a lot of offensive capabilities, as you've said. Provoke can be an offensive keyword at the same time, blocking off their own minions with their general, that kind of thing. So it's definitely a very good card in both aggro and control, in my opinion, when there's not a lot of dispel. So we will get into a replay now. I'll just pull that up quickly. And as last time, just going to black the screen for you guys so we don't see the result. Alright, we're back and ready to go. So we're versing Lionar, Hand of Siphon, Soul, and 2 Stars Fury. Is there much to think about in this mulligan here?
No, not really. Just kind of looking for any sort of turn 1 play. And I'm actually pretty happy to see the Ethereal Obelisk and the Sand Trap. I'm debating on I'm debating my mulligans here. Immediately, Dancing Blades comes to mind, Sand Trap comes to mind, but as soon as I see that Azurite Lion, my thought process changes. If you want to pause it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good time to pause. So about the Sand Trap here, is it a clear decision in your mind?
Yes. So the Azurite Lion, because it has celerity, can simply walk forward and attack twice on my Ethereal Obelisk, then follow it up with a general attack, and it's gonna get removed very, very quickly. He could also possibly just play a minion on the mana tile and then play another 2-drop. And this compounds his advantage by removing my Ethereal Obelisk. So because I can root this minion and basically negate all of the tempo that he would have gained by playing the Celerity minion, it nets me a lot of board advantage just by rooting it in place. And you'll see this come into play later, but I really a fan of this effect. I also, you'll notably I keep the Dancing Blades here, I believe, because I'm thinking that I can take advantage of it on the next turn.
Yeah, it's definitely something to note as well, that the fact that it can't move means he doesn't have the option to go a 3 and a 2-drop. So if he has something like a Silverguard Knight and a 2-drop in hand, he's then forced to play 1 minion, which will leave you the potential to, walk onto a mana tile with the Dervish, even just summoned from the Obelisk, or if you draw, some other cards. And if he somehow left this mana tile next to the Lion open, then you can walk on, even get the hit from it, or set up a Dancing Blades. So there's definitely a lot of potential. I think it's, once you get into it with that Lion play, it's definitely something that's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just a normal 2-drop, say a Healing Mystic, anything, would you still consider that play?
I probably would have replaced Dancing Blades at that point and considered a different line of play. But since it was just my plain old Obelisk, I felt it was too good of an opportunity to pass up.
Yeah, makes sense. Right,
so here, he's almost it almost looks like he doesn't have an answer, and then slam dunks me with the Martyrdom.
Yeah, definitely not a card you want your Obelisks to run into early. I think you'd probably prefer they take up a Dispel even.
Alright, so here I had a pretty important decision to make. I could do one of 2 things. I could run down to the bottom right or up to the top right and place my minion in the corner and try to get a Third Wish advantage. I could hold everything and possibly wait for a combo, but I didn't want to lose an answer in case he Silverguard Knights me. And I think I actually opt for a kind of a greedy play. I think I just walk backwards and place it against the wall here, which is greedy in the sense that if he does play a Silverguard Knight, this minion will be provoked and I will be forced to have an answer to it.
Yeah.
So I think placing it in the corner would have been the correct line of play, but I felt greedy here, and we'll see what rolls out.
I mean, you also can definitely get a read that last turn he didn't have a Silver Guard Knight.
Hmm.
So he's probably only got two cards since then, unless he misplayed with the replays. So you can kind of bank on the fact that he probably won't have a Silver Guard Knight, but obviously there's still a chance.
Yeah, it's going through my mind right now, and it actually does come out, and we're we're in uh-oh zone. Like I have the so here again. I don't know if you want to pause this.
Yep.
I think this is a pretty important turn. So here, obviously, it looks like I could place a Dunecaster, and then I could Third Wish, right? Now,
It's a little bit
the,
awkward as well with the
it's
provoke.
a little, yeah, it's a little awkward because I'd have to attack it at melee range with my Third Wish, and I do. I choose to. I know that I'm definitely going to have to play the Third Wish here because I can't let the Silverguard Knight hold me in place another turn for the Primus Fist to get closer. I just don't want him getting very close to me. It's not very good for my plan of action. But seeing that I got the Amara Healer in hand, I know what my possible play could be for next turn. So I opt to use the Third Wish first, and then I try to place my second Dunecaster at a safe location rather than go with the Ethereal Obelisk. Or no, actually, I think I do go with the yeah, the Dunecaster. I go with the Dunecaster here, I believe. But I'm just trying not to get my second Dunecaster lined up for a possible Sunbloom or just be really wrecked by a Dancing Blades or Tempest. But the play is definitely just to protect my minions here.
Do you think there's any merit to not playing Third Wish and then just playing Dunecaster, trading, and playing the Obelisk, or do you think that just is too much of a weak play, like board control wise? Because the Dunecaster
Um,
will die to his general if he wants to.
Yeah, the Dunecaster will die to his general almost no matter what I do, unless I play the Third Wish and the Dunecaster. And I think I just wanted to limit that play ability because setting up the Obelisk here is just kind of like I'm not really playing it out of reach of anything. I can't. I'm not guaranteed to set up my another Dervish next turn, and I like having that option to always have a Dervish on the board. Whereas playing a weak Obelisk with nothing else on the board but my minion that could die to the general attack is I feel like a losing play at that point because I even though I have the combo card with the Dunecaster Third Wish, the spawn could be bad if I weren't to clear if I weren't able to clear his next Silverguard Knight. It just I'd have to draw another Third Wish. So I definitely want to have a Dervish readily available for drawing a Third Wish rather than an Ethereal Obelisk for a Dunecaster.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll just unpause it then. So was it the Third Wish and Dunecaster? I think you decided on. So
Yes, yeah, I I'm thinking about where I'm going to position it, and I know I want to place it in the corner
and
because
it's just good to note that by playing the Dunecaster as well, you can buff it out of the general attack range,
mhm.
which is important. So he kind of needs a Martyrdom or a Sunbloom because he doesn't really want a Tempest with this board too much either. So
Yeah, unfortunately, I get um, pretty punished here. I think. I think by moving away, I actually opened up a play that was not apparent.
okay, yeah. So you're thinking Dunecaster in the corner, obviously.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with the Dunecaster in the corner, and
Yeah,
hoping that he doesn't have an answer to this one because that's a juicy looking Dunecaster right now with
yeah, and
7
it
attack.
is unfortunately weak to a 2-drop plus Holy Immolation. But I feel like that's kind of a risk you have to take. There's nothing to let
Yeah.
the Dunecaster live.
Instead, he just has a Dancing Blades.
Yeah.
So he's had the answer every turn here almost at it. Like it's looking pretty grim for me because all I have now is my 2-1. He's got a 4-6 and a 2-3 on the board. However, he does something interesting here and tries to, I don't know, move up and think he's going to get more usage out of that mana tile.
Okay.
So right here, my first thought is I can play the 3 and the 2 over the Amara, and so I use the card draw. Now I want to play a little bit around him having to have a card to kill off any obelisk that I play. So I play it out of reach of the Primus Fist,
Yep.
and I also use my Dunecaster to block here. Now I think I misplayed here. If you want to pause it.
Yep. Okay, so you're
So
choosing not to
here,
trade into the Dancing Blades? Is it?
yes, and that I think I wanted him to have the Holy Immolation, but then again, in hindsight, it appears as if I'm just leaving my Dunecaster to die, leaving my Ethereal Obelisk to get answered anyways by a card. So I think I should have killed off the Dancing Blades and then made him have an answer to one of these. But at this point, I felt like any sort of a draw that I get, like a third wish or anything like that, and if he didn't answer any of these cards besides killing off the Dunecaster because the Primus was out of reach, I felt that I could just close out the game very quickly with just one third wish or a Dunecaster or a Rashas or a Star's Fury or something like that, just because of the Fireblaze Obelisk setup and the potential with how his minions are placed to explode on him. So
Yeah.
I did opt to go face and leave my minion alive, but it might have been a losing play.
I think, to me, that seems more like a play you take when you don't really think you can win any other way, when you feel like you kind of have to go face. But I feel like in the
Hmm.
situation where you clear the Dancing Blades, sure, you're getting a little bit low, but you're versing a liner, that's not too relevant. And you've basically got, two obelisks versus a Primus Fist on board.
Hmm.
So it's not a position you're losing, so you don't, yeah, maybe you don't need to take that kind of risk. But I don't think it's terrible. I think it's still, you can see the logic behind it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I was just weighing the risks of him having all the answers to him having only one answer here.
and you also, you're generating value. Like he'd probably be happy with his Dancing Blades trading and doing 4 damage. It's not the worst thing for his thing. So if he was going to make that play where he'll trade into the Dunecaster anyway,
Hmm.
um, then you kind of are attacking for him in that sense. So we're
Yeah,
just
yeah,
doing that
and
now.
I'm also dealing 4 damage to my face. So,
Yeah,
Alright. So seeing the first wishes is kind of good for me, but I'm also kind of unhappy to see that Sand Howler at this point. At this point, there's no place to play that Sand Howler, because I sand trapped the lion. If I were to move to the left, like if he'll walk over and probably punch the obelisk, right? So if my natural reaction would be to go to the left, but there's my sand trap. So unfortunately, I chose the wrong corner, I think, to go into when I first came down here, because if that if that Nazarite line wasn't there, now
and the
that took
Bone
me completely by
Reaper.
surprise.
Yeah,
The Bone
that's
Reaper was very well timed, I guess, for him. I was like, holy crap, what do I do against that?
that's a pretty brutal Bone Reaper. Doesn't get a lot better than that.
Yeah, yeah.
So at least you get
So
the one Dervish.
yeah, we have the one Dervish, and I guess I opt for the Amara in First Wish here, saying, all right, he didn't have a very good answer for that other card. Like Bone Reaper isn't a very good answer, right? Like it wasn't provoking me. It wasn't a Sunbloom. It wasn't a Martyrdom. At this point, he kind of has to have an answer for Amara or Perish. So it's looking good for me. I am vulnerable to a couple Divine Bonds, but I don't think he has them at this point. It doesn't seem likely, since he didn't. If he had a Divine Bond, he probably would have taken it that turn, right?
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's not something a lineup player can often afford to keep if they're not ahead on
mhm.
board. He's going to be looking for answers, and this kind of
Yeah.
even though it was a clean answer to the obelisk and the Dunecaster, it didn't really stop our plan of just making sure one obelisk lived. Having that
Mm.
one dervish available is always really good.
Yeah.
Um, so at least got a Fireblaze target for one turn. So he's down to
Yeah.
7 health now. He's pretty low, and we're back at full health. So
Yeah, and you could see just how fast he went. He's going down just by a few cards in this deck. Very few cards have actually played to actually go face besides an obelisk spawn and my general, and he's already down at 7 HP. So the potential for aggression in this deck is off the charts with just a few good draws.
And you can see
And
now we're
then
already off one off lethal with Third Wish, Rushars, and First
yeah,
Wish.
and it's yep, and we just top deck it. So
Yeah,
we find the Star's Fury, and lo and behold, the sand trapped minion from the beginning of the game is actually the one that deals the killing blow from the Star's Fury. So the power of Stand Trap coming in big here, giving me a readily available Star's Fury target, and with 8 mana in hand, I can easily third wish it and just clean up.
Yeah, so I was honestly just a surprising game just to me, just from Lina should probably felt like he was in a good position, but then just Amaya comes
Yeah.
down, one hit from the obelisk, and the burst damage at the end there was it's quite high, and
Hmm.
just from simple, it wasn't like a lucky. He didn't play terribly around Star's Fury or anything, but the Sandtrap minion got value. Um, we didn't get to spell that game, but I don't think he would have been saving it a spell for Amaya anyway. He would have had to play it if he did, and then
Yeah,
Amaya would have come down anyway. So we weren't really too worried about Sunbloom at that point.
yeah. So lots and lots of minions to answer from our list, and once those minions are answered, turns 1 through 5 on 6. If you have Amara and you are really behind on board, typically that Amara is going to have to deal some damage to them. If they were able to answer everything else, it's unlikely that they answer the Amara too. And if they do, by that point you should be keeping combo pieces like Rasha's Third, Dunecaster, that kind of thing, and you just keep getting to snowball the damage that you've been dealing to them, just kind of residually, and it feels very good, like old Third Wish used to.
So for this game, we've got one that you recorded against Mizilji. I guess that's how you say his name.
Hmm. Yep, he
Um,
was actually number 1 this season too, so that's pretty.
yeah, he's been someone I've versed heaps. He's always, kind of around that 20 to 0 zone. And
Hmm.
I've been versing him heaps. And I haven't versed his Vetruvian very much, so I'm interested to see how this match goes. And we can, maybe talk about some differences in the deck. So we will get started here.
All right.
So,
So
mulligan decisions.
I like it all, to be honest. Basically, I First Wish is a card that can be played on obelisks, believe it or not.
Yep.
Um, it depends on if they had a turn 1, and that is like, if not Fireblaze Obelisk, I'll be playing Sandhowler, because going second in any deck or in any matchup with this deck, you are actually favored a lot, I feel. So just because of the amount of 3 drops that you're playing and the amount of power 3 drops with Sandhowler and Fireblaze Obelisk.
Okay, so I do apologize. I don't think the stats have recorded for most of this. Hopefully they might come up, but we should be able to keep track of it for the most part, hopefully. That is my fault. I didn't realize they weren't on. Just going back to that there, he played a non-silence target. Is it
Mhm.
just that good in the matchup that you'll always kind of keep a Siphon Soul around?
Yeah, I know I've been seeing his Vitruvian around, and I know that he's also running a similar list with obelisks, and it concerns me that he may drop an obelisk at any time, and I'd like to have a clean answer to that without having to deal damage to it, and able to go face with any damage that I have on board is just good for me, given the aggression style that I am running. So having a Siphon Energy in hand, having a First Wish in hand, allows me to really compound any benefits that I gain on the if he doesn't have an answer for this Fireblaze. So taking advantage of the cards that I am given in hand if he has no answer is very good for me. So clean answers.
Oh, it looks like the audio. I might have to mute the audio. I think I had a video running in the background when I recorded that. Sorry about
Oh,
that. I thought it would just record from the game, but I didn't realize that was going on. Anyway, it is hopefully not the best way to do it with VLC. Hopefully they'll add a feature where you can, save the files for replays. That's
mhm.
what I'm really hoping for. Um, so we will have to
So
keep
that
track of the stats a little bit, but that should be fine.
yeah, that Bone Swarm caught me off guard. Um, Bone Swarm just to deal 2 damage to my Fireblaze Obelisk, and he keeps the Mystic back there. That tells me he either A has another Bone Swarm and expects me to stay there, and he wants to stand over there and deal damage to it, or B, he really doesn't have a good answer for it. He just wants to deal damage to it any way he can, and I feel safe here, just kind of playing both of my drops and allowing him to answer them as he pleases.
Yeah, so there's
Because
a couple cards that you can combo with, like Rushars or another Bone Swarm, but
mhm.
even that's not too bad for you. That's still a 2 for 1. He's spending mana, he's spending general hits. It's
Yeah.
seems pretty fine for you.
Yeah. So here, I guess I think I make use of all of this mana up here by playing the Sandhowler behind me, playing the Ethereal Obelisk on the top tile, walking forward, and then I'm able to also play the First Wish on my Sandhowler. And I can't First Wish first because otherwise the mana gets used up.
Do you think there's any merit to playing it the Sandhowler diagonally behind you if you do fear another Bone Swarm, or is it just not that big a deal since it will need something else as well?
No, because of the Star's Fury positioning that would open up. I want the the triangle formation here between my general and the obelisk and my sandhowler. If he plays Star's Fury and I move it down below, it allows the dervish to escape, so to speak, and go where it pleases. And you'll see. I think he actually does Star's Fury here on the follow up turn. I think it comes into play.
Alright, so we'll see how we go here. I really do like you utilizing all that mana while you can, especially with just a Siphon Soul in hand afterwards. We don't know for sure we'll be able to fill our mana curve out. So
Hmm.
doing it while we can, I think it's a good idea. Plus making sure we cycle, it'll give us more options next turn. So,
Yeah. So
and are
his
you
healing
picking with your
mystic
general
is.
here? Yeah. So
Oh
we
yeah,
are
for
probably the
sure.
aggressor in this matchup. Um, is he more mid-rangey? Do you think? Is that what you're fearing?
I don't actually know. See, I don't know if he's running healing. I don't know if he's running dancing blades. Like that could be more mid rangey. I do know that he's running obelisks, and that is what I'm just kind of fearing. The counter sand howler is always difficult to deal with in Vitruvian because neither of us have a reasonable way to deal with it without playing dancing blades on it or something like that. So
And
I th-
because you
I
played the
think.
first wish, we are actually playing around Dancing Blades in this scenario because it would be a 4/4.
Hmm. Yep, and that was the only reason that I wanted it over there. Because otherwise he could have walked his healing mystic all the way across, and he walked down on the mana tile.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so you got the
Uh,
O4 Obelisk, so he can clear off everything apart from the Sandhell, I believe.
hmm Yep, he can't even touch the Sandhowler
Yeah.
because of the positioning. So that was my main concern there was the Star's Fury that he could possibly play there because it would have been the obvious answer if
Yeah.
I had one myself.
Yeah, the
So
fact that Dancing Blades isn't going to kill the Sandhell, I think is pretty massive there and allows you to play around Star's Fury like
mhm,
that.
yeah, so here it's clear. I just want to protect my Sandhowler while he doesn't have a reasonable answer to it because the only way he's going to answer it is with Dancing Blades or something like that. And all right, so as soon as I see this Emerald Rejuvenator, I know that I'm actually at a slight disadvantage in this matchup until I draw a Third Wish or a Dunecaster or something like that because of my lack of aggressive plays. So I need to put him on a clock and I need to remove board and basically get an overwhelming board. And while he's still playing cards like Emerald Rejuvenator, I'm at an advantage. But I'm going to be using my general's health aggressively here to keep my advantage high and preserve my board state.
Yeah, I really
Because
like the
while he
dance. Sorry, go on.
so like while he could play another Star's Fury here, it may just be his second one, and it won't actually answer too much on this board. So that's why I'm using my health.
Yeah, so what did jump out to me when I saw this play was this, I think what we're going to see now, the Third Wish potential.
Hmm.
But I don't know if. I feel like we're giving him the benefit of the doubt too much if we just don't go in and attack with that Dancing Blade there. Um, so maybe we could have moved the Sand Howler, but we want to give it Blast. So moving into the corner is never, a great option. Um, and
Yeah,
we still have the Dancing Blade, so we still have the tempo going for us.
yeah. That play actually I think caught me off guard. I think I mean it's obviously a decent play because it not only does it push me lower, but it deals with two threats on the board that he normally can't deal with. Like the dancing blades is normally something you have to like brute force down,
Yeah.
and the sandhowler never really dies very cleanly without using something like that. So it caught me a little off guard, and I guess I could have moved it up to the top, but I think I did value the central position on the midline, and that is why I just immediately jumped on that play. Because if he had moved down 2 tiles and it was on the top tile, he would have been very safe from any sort of third wish for the next 2 turns potentially.
Yeah, I think there's definitely merit when you're the aggressive deck in the match. That you need to keep asking your opponent questions because eventually they'll falter. They won't always have that rush as third wish.
Hmm.
Um, and we still have the tempo. We're not losing now whatsoever. We're down on health, but still plenty of life in the matchup. And it's definitely not something where you can't send. I feel like you have to send in the Dancing Blade at that point. Otherwise, you're just giving your opponent too much benefit and giving him
Hmm.
an advantage without even necessarily needing to have those cards.
Yeah,
So yeah, maybe the Sound Hella could have been positioned a bit differently, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I think it's still a fine play.
yeah. So here it's just like, okay, he had one answer, but he didn't hold out. You know what I mean? He didn't
Yeah.
hold out for like me to third wish him. He didn't play any sort of he didn't play any he didn't wait for like a Rash's combo, right? Or
Yeah.
I mean like with Dunecaster. So that to me spells that he's not feeling very comfortable with answering my board right now. He wants to be aggressive, but he also doesn't want to like punch me. Like he didn't swing with his general, right? He stayed out of reach of the dancing blades. He doesn't. It tells me that he doesn't have a lot of aggressive cards in his hand right now, outside of that combo. So I feel like I can actually push my advantage with my Amara healer here and force him to either have an answer to it or net me a lot of health.
Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously in all card games, in all situations, you kind of want to be the one pushing the tempo, but especially in a Vetruvian matchup, I feel like that is something pretty massive. Vitruvian has some burst from hand, but it's not ridiculous. It's not song high levels. So if you have
mhm.
ball control, especially with Amari out, you're feeling pretty safe. And cards like Obelisks, they don't really do much at all when you're behind on the board. They'll probably just die for free.
Mhm.
Whereas in this situation, you can keep asking him the questions, keep pressuring him, and Vitruvian, as you said, doesn't really have these clean answers to minions. It can silence
Yeah.
them, it can deal increments of 2 damage pretty decently, but it's not going to just easily deal with a 4-6 or a 5-5, that kind of thing. So I think this is still quite a decent position for you, especially if he doesn't
Yeah.
have the silence.
And also, since he had not played a siphon all game, his answer to my obelisks were to Star's Fury them. I wanted him to burn a siphon energy on a target that I didn't really care about if it got siphoned. Um, Whereas my obelisks would be useless on the board, she's still a 5/5. So developing her and her potential to answer his board felt like the more pressing matter than to say put an obelisk underneath him, put a obelisk behind him, or something like that.
Yeah, and it
So.
just comes back to using health aggressively, especially when we're the more aggressive side
Mhm.
of the matchup. You can't really afford to be playing too carefully with your health. So we'll get back into
Mhm.
it. And so we can probably expect a Siphon will come up for the Amaya, but as you said, it's still a 5-5. If he wants to deal with it cleanly, he still needs a
Mhm.
Dancing Blade, that's going to be 5 damage anyway.
Yeah, there's no way that I care about the siphon energy other than I hope he doesn't follow it up with some damage, and it appears that he doesn't. He just tries to set up his own Sand Howler,
Yep.
which spells a little bit of a rush play to me. So I have a couple options here. Um, I can use the Rashas with the Dunecaster to clear it off, and then set up a Fire Blaze, or I could just drop another Amara. Now the problem with dropping another Amara is, yeah, sure, I'm still just telling him to have answers here. Is that I cannot run from the Sand Howler if he does have another answer.
Yeah.
So on 8 mana for him, that is a Rasha's plus, or is like it's like Dunecaster, double third wish. It's just a crazy amount of damage that he can punch out here. If like, and I'm only on 11 HP, so I have to be very careful on how risky I want to play with a Sand Howler that's going to hit me no matter where I go, and or all of my minions. Like if I decide to go up to the top tile with the Amara, it could potentially just spell defeat for me. So I think I do opt to just remove it here and set up a Fire Blaze and retreat with my general and hope I can set up a position of advantage for myself and draw my own third wishes.
Yeah, and I mean, we say we don't care about our health too much, but if you're gonna get hit with a Sandhowler with third wish for at least 6 damage, that's when you have to start caring at that point. And with
Yeah.
our two of our only real heal sources, we got the healing mystics, but we don't have any in hand. We don't have reliable heal, so it is something we need to watch out for. I definitely think.
Yeah. And that's a very good it's a very good point on how like it can change so fast between I have you have no board, I'm going to play Amara, to suddenly, okay, you have a board, I'm not going to play Amara because
Yeah,
there's no way you don't have an answer to it, because he could just punch it.
I really like this
So
Dunecaster positioning, just making sure if you draw that third wish, it's going to be a live draw no matter
mhm.
what. And we've already seen in Rush's third wish combo. Our Dancing Blade's at 6 health anyway. We're not too worried about him, suddenly blasting down and punishing this.
Mhm. So there's some merit to playing the Fireblaze on the middle tile on the bottom, but I guess I did not want the Emerald Rejuvenator to be able to hit it if he had another Siphon for this Rasha's, for example. So I decided to play it out of the Emerald range just in case he was able to answer my Dervish here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm always, kind of in favor of if it's similar positioning, go with the one that will guarantee the safety of your minion, because it avoids
hmm
those, worst case scenarios.
hmm Now here, I think was one of the trickier plays of this game. From my end, I had to answer something very scary.
Yeah.
He plays very, very, very hard into a Star's Fury, but I don't have it.
Yes.
And he basically set himself up to have third wish no matter where I am. And what I opt to do here, I believe, is play Namara on his face, and then I decide to go with the. I think I should play it in front. I think I taunt both of the lower minions, and then I use the sand trap on the top Dunecaster. The reason I chose the top Dunecaster is because if he had a third wish, the cleanest, and he didn't have a siphon energy, for example, the cleanest way to get rid of this Amara would be to move that top one tile to the right, and then third wish both of them, and then I'd be in trouble. Like, yeah, he'd have a little bit of health loss, but that would be two Amaras down, and I would just kind of be out of answers as per my hand. So I chose to leave it where it is. I'm going to attack with the Amara, and the only way that that's going to go away without him having siphon energy and using a different dervish minion to clear it off is that thing is going to trade into it. So
Yeah. I think there is like if you maybe had a higher health total, and maybe we you could kind of go for a play where you play in the top corner with the Amaya, even potentially let him have the Sand Howler free, and then you can move your general in a position where he can't move his Sand Howler to third wish you. But I think with the current life totals, we're not in that much of a dynamic racing position where that kind of play is allowed. So I
yeah,
do really like the Sand Trap here.
it's not apparent, but that is a 7/7 Sand Howler right now, and he's looking mighty
Yeah, it's
mighty
definitely
scary.
a big threat. If it's a position where you're probably going to both be killing each other next time, there is some kind of merit to creating the most difficult situation for your opponent to potentially
hmm
blast you with the Sandhauer. But I think I like this play definitely.
Yeah. I like the wiggly drags. It's
Yeah,
like,
you can see the
okay.
hesitation, but I think you made the right
Yeah.
decision here. And we get to hit him for 5, which is what this deck wants to be doing.
hmm And I don't move. Like, he doesn't move, I don't move. We both just stand there.
I
And
mean,
I'm so happy to see his third wish in my hand. All I'm saying is, please don't have an answer to Amara.
yeah, and this is our third MI, isn't it? Was it a third or a
That's
second?
the second.
The second.
That's the
Okay,
second.
yeah. Cool.
So that one dies. It was 5-1 there.
Yep.
Um,
And so we definitely still have a ton of silence targets. So even if he has a Siphon Soul on the Amaya, we still, have a couple other high priorities once we play that third wish as well.
mhm.
So he's playing into Stars Fury again a little bit.
Yeah, it seems at this point he must feel like if he has it, he has it, and I'm just going to try and answer him as best I can.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately for me, he did not have a third wish.
Yeah. I mean,
Because even though he took that damage,
yeah, it it would have been pretty brutal, but it's not the end of the world because we did get some healing back. But it's yeah, we don't want to be taking that much damage for
yeah.
sure.
So I think we have lethal here. Um, with the Dunecaster third wish, it clears off the minions that are blocking my dervish's path.
Yeah.
And you can see the difference between playstyles. That while his deck ran a lot of healing, he didn't run a lot of threats as well. And I wasn't really forced to brutalize my general's health by trading into like say Dancing Blades or something like that. He just opted for the safer Emerald Rejuvenator style deck, and I feel like that deck is at a disadvantage to the aggressive deck, as long as the aggressive deck has the aggressive cards, for example. But like I said at the beginning of the matchup, as soon as he played the Emerald Rejuvenator, I basically had to draw my aggressive cards in order to come out on top in that matchup, which fortunately I ended up doing. But
There's definitely a lot of merit to being the one constantly asking the questions,
mhm.
and just by the fact that you're the aggressive deck and he's not as aggressive, it means that your health is suddenly a much more valuable resource than his is. He has to really manage his, and we saw the burst potential of the deck. It didn't look like that threatening a board, and then suddenly you're killing him from 11 health, which is not something we worried too much about in the past with Vet.
Mhm.
The
Yeah,
Dreamcast has definitely added a lot of burst to the deck.
yeah, it's been a long time, and I actually feel that this variation of the third wish is it's not as strong as the other third wish, but it has in areas like burst potential. It is much stronger, given that all of our third wish targets are now Dunecaster targets, whereas before it was limited to say Healing Mystic getting buffed by first wish and Primus Fist, right? So
Yeah.
it's the damage potential is greater while the speed of the deck is a little slower. But
And the meta changes caused by the Vet nerf means less dispels, so it's actually, buff this kind of Dervish style. Like, if you were playing
mhm.
a deck where you, for some reason, were only buffing Dervishes ever, that is now a stronger playstyle just because of the meta changes. And, there's not too much silence in the meta. Vayner is a matchup I imagine is a bit tougher because Chromatic Cold, Hailstone Prisons can be a bit difficult, but they also don't have the best healing options as well, so there is some merit there.
Yeah, going face against them is one of my most employed game plans. Because if, for example, a Jack's True Sight comes out and I wasn't able to set up a Crimson Oculus the turn prior, which is actually the tech option in this deck for that matchup, it becomes kind of difficult to answer it because Star's Fury is usually my one of my killing tools against them since they are a minion centric faction, and I'm able to employ a lot of dervishes when they have a full board, and it also has to answer Jack's True Sight. So
Yeah, so
it's
you're
it's a
normally playing
it's
that
a
aggressive in that
double edged
situation?
sword. What's that?
Are you normally trying to play the Crimson Oculus pretty aggressive when you fear the Jacks?
I usually try to play it the turn before they are about to play Jack's True Sight. Some of them have been not running Jack's True Sight at all, and that's it is what it is. They either have Jacks or don't. But I feel like I've gotten value out of the Crimson more often than not. That matchup is definitely one that could warrant further tech choices in the deck. But right now, I'm feeling pretty comfortable in the matchup.
Yeah, and Crimson Oculus, I just kind of like how it's a card. It's the least synergistic card in the deck.
Mm.
Even something like Dancing Blades, you kind of want to get value out of. You need your opponent to have a 3 health minion or something like that. The Obelisks, they're not. They need some kind of setup. They need good positioning. Sandhellers, you want some buffs, something like that. Crimson Oculus is just good value if you can get 1 or 2 procs off it immediately for your
Hmm.
opponent. So it's good just to have that 3 mana, play a threat, get a nice start to the game.
Yeah, it's basically a 2/3 Portal Guardian. Like we used to have Portal Guardian to do that for us, right? You just play Portal Guardian, your opponent goes, "Oh crap, I can't deal with Portal Guardian." Now we don't have Portal Guardian because he's too easy to get answered,
Yeah,
and Crimson Oculus can get very scary if your opponent does not have an answer at all. So
Yeah, I think Portal Guardian's almost a melee obelisk at this point.
hmm
So anyway, we've gone for quite a while now, so I think we'll call that there. Is there anywhere people can find you, see more of your stuff?
yeah, you can find me on Twitch slash GrincherZ, and you can also find me on Twitter at GrincherZ. Both of those places be good resources to find me if you need me.
Alright, so that'll be it for that. Massive thanks, Grinch, for coming on, showing us this deck. I think it is a deck that we will be seeing a lot more on ladder. And I've also heard it's got an amazing mag matchup, which is a deck that I think is pretty strong at the moment. So that's always very
hmm
relevant. If you want to see more of this kind of video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.